first question is, why did you decide to run for Executive Alliance?
Well, that's a little bit of a funny story, but no. I've known Andy for a couple of years, and, we decided just, we were hanging out, and we were like, election's going on. Is there anything, we could, provide, or is there anything we could think of? And so we kind of just decided to just look at things and things we could solve, and, we decided to just look at in the actual budget. And, yeah, we found a few things that we were kind of concerned of, and we're seeing if we could maybe do something about it. But anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just generally that student government, at least in my opinion, I know you agree with this, we always saw it as something that was, we only really heard from people running about during the campaign season and stuff like that. So we looked into student government, saw what it was about, and we decided we wanted to run and see what we could do there.
Okay, so you started out just trying to get involved and found the budget and went from there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. All right. So what do you think is the Executive Alliance's responsibility to the student body, keeping in mind that a lot of students don't know what student government really does?
Well, yeah, because we didn't really know much. Well, I didn't know much about student government. Andy is definitely more of the brains here, and he knows a lot more. But it was more of just, my idea is that, as student government president or vice president or as a representative or anything, you have to think about what's important to the students and, the issues that they're facing and seeing how we could help them in any way possible. And, like Andy said earlier, it's the only times we actually ever interacted with student government is just during this election cycle, where we kind of wish to see if there was something more we could put onto the table.
So why jump to Executive Alliance instead of going for, like you said, representative or an agency or something else?
I think for me it's just you go big or go home, just
go straight for it.
Yeah, just go full send, see what happens, maybe just rattle a few things, just have a voice.
Did you have a different response?
Well, when it comes to why Executive Alliance, I feel like some of the things we wanted to get done, we thought the Executive Alliance would be the best suited for something like that, especially the task force, because that is directly delegated to the president and vice president specifically the president, that they're able to form something like that. So we did think that was the best for it.
Can you talk a little bit more about the task force?
The task force, sure. So we want to create a task force that'll monitor the current situation on campus when it comes to the recent war in Israel and Gaza, because, I know we can both attest to this. We have friends, of both faiths, whether they're Jewish or Muslim, who feel like it's unsafe on campus right now. It's a very kind of volatile political climate, especially on this issue. And I know friends who they're afraid to practice their faith, speak on the issue, share their thoughts. So we wanted to create a task force that would monitor this situation, better address student government and advise that, what's going on campus, how can we better deal with issues like this, how can we make sure that, specifically on this issue, how can students feel safe? And the people on that committee would be, or task force I should say, would be of all backgrounds and, of the faith traditions who are more involved in the conflict, who hits home closer to.
When you say monitor, what exactly do you mean by that?
There's been a lot of things that have happened on campus recently. And we want this task force to essentially monitor all the different things that are happening and make sure that student government is up to date on the news of, what is actually going on and what incidents are happening and how student government can basically handle those things and make sure it's not either making the climate worse or it's not doing nothing, how it can basically advocate for all students in a safer environment on this issue.
So what would this task force be doing when you say monitoring that would be different than if you were president and vice president, the way that you would be keeping an eye on what's going on campus?
So we want this task force to be specialized on this issue. Like I said before, I want there to be Jewish students on this committee. I want there to be Muslim students. I want there to be students who maybe have family who have to deal with these issues, and we feel like their experience gives them a certain level of expertise that we or many other students couldn't really have. And we feel like we want there to be students who are more specialized and knowledgeable to advise student government on these things because, we all have very different experiences.
Yeah, and how would you go about, go ahead.
I was just going to add, one of the biggest events that kind of helped inspire this idea was a few weeks ago we had that event, the Israel's Moral War, where they had a Jewish speaker to come talk about it, and they were trying to, create conversation between the two sides to, try to, get people to like talk about this issue because of how relevant it is and how many like students like really care about it. But that led to a bit of violence and people got arrested, and we want to see if we can bridge that gap and maybe just try to de-escalate the situation, make sure this campus stays safe and everyone knows that they have a voice.
Yeah, so how would you go about putting this task force together to, like you said, represent the different perspectives?
Mm-hmm. So we do know that there is the constitutional authority to put together a task force like this, and this is something where we'll admit the exact details of it. We would have to probably ask people in student government, like how do we, how in practice has this been used in the past and stuff like that. We would work with the dean of students to make sure we do it correctly. We would have it as a volunteer kind of committee where we would have people who really want to be on this committee, who really feel like they have that expertise. We want them on that committee. And then, from there, it's just kind of place time, and we'll have them doing the things I mentioned and advising student government and making sure that, like I said before, make sure student government doesn't maybe play into any division or doesn't do nothing when it comes to this division. And we want to make sure that everyone's different perspectives are bridged where we can, like you said, hear everybody on this issue.
So what kind of things would this task force be advising student government on?
No. It was just going to be just, like Andy said, it's just going to be reviewing issues about it and just kind of delegating, like, this is okay, this is bad, very, very, like, simple. It's more going to be like an advising, just, making sure that we don't, like, step on someone's shoes and make people feel like, they can't say anything about on this issue. Where, we want people on this campus to be able to speak their mind, and we don't want anyone to feel like they can't have a voice on any issue.
So would they be advising like on action that student government could take or on policy legislation?
I think generally it'd be a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Rhetoric, policy, legislation in the assembly. We want it to advise essentially everybody in student government. So we have those perspectives basically in every decision we make that may be affecting this issue.
Okay, so like broadly on anything that could be touching this sort of issue, you would want that perspective?
Yes, we want perspectives of both sides, and we want perspectives of students kind of who are more knowledgeable than really anybody on this issue.
Awesome, thank you. So we've spoken about one of your policy issues in great detail now, but what kind of change are you guys hoping to bring more broadly to campus?
Well, our biggest and first, platform point is to, take away our own stipends, because we want to create, a merit-based scholarship, because I want to say for the current budget, I would be getting $6,000, and I think that's ridiculously high, and I feel like that could be better given to some other student that I know has a little bit harder time financially, and because I believe every student here deserves success, and I don't want the money given to me, that should be given back to the students.
And that's based on the current numbers of what the president would be getting?
I would like to say, yeah.
Yes.
That's based on the budget that we found.
Okay, so you guys found the current budget of student government?
Yeah.
Yes, we found the 2023-2024 budget. It has the signature of the president on it, and it has a requested and recommended amounts. So, yes, these are based on the numbers we found. And we've also spoken to some people who get stipends, some people higher up in student government, and they'll just say, I get this much in stipends, and then I'll look to the budget, and it's checks out. Yeah, that's correct.
Would you be able to send that to us as well?
Sure.
Thank you. So why are you guys the most qualified candidates to bring about this change?
Well, Andy and I both have legislative experience where during the 88th session, we actually worked on the budget bill that was passed for all of Texas, where I know that I had to stay up till 3 a.m.,
Mm-hmm.
To review this budget, and having all the representatives just discuss on how everything should be divided, because I can't remember how many billions of dollars was it for the...
I don't even remember.
But it was just a 1,000-page bill, and just trying to get everything that we wanted our district to be funded to have everything it could need, and just we've have that type of experience, and I've helped constituents and had to listen to their problems and see what I can do, and see agencies I had to talk to hopefully resolve their issue in the best way possible. And you have worked in housing and dining, right?
Yes, I have. I've worked in housing and dining as a part of my residence hall kind of student-led council, which was, responsible for many different things, but primarily it was advocating for students and their problems within the dorm. I took that campus-wide, and now I am an RA. So, there's just a handful of things I think we have the experience of. But I do also, to a degree, believe that students will vote mostly on platform, the mission people want to put forth, and the goals they want to achieve. So, yes, I do think, like, both of us have ledge experience. Both of us have different experiences on campus I do think make us qualified for this. But I will also say we do have a certain level of dedication, and we want to make sure that the change we want to see on campus does actually get accomplished. And I think students will resonate with that as well.
Yeah, so you've worked at the legislature, you're saying? Was it like a position at?
Yeah, I was the legislative director.
Okay.
Where, I have had to listen to just a bunch of different type of people coming in, discuss their issues and everything they had, but also with just my time being a student here, I've just did my best to go to different types of organizations and hear what people's views have. Where I've gone to University Democrats, Young Conservatives of Texas, Students for Democrat Society, and even the Gender and Sexuality Center when that was still up. Where I decided, to put my foot there in the door and listen to what people had to say and just their different views and what they cared about here on campus.
So turning to what you mentioned, you've worked with UHD, was it?
Yes.
Can you speak more specifically on what you did with them?
So there's really all sorts of things that I've done under UHD. It's a little hard to say. And to a large degree, it's I've worked on different projects, and I don't want to obviously say, I did this, because a lot of it has been working with other people and putting forth the things they want to do. I can speak a little bit about currently what I'm doing as an RA, where it's been a little bit of advocating for my residents, firstly just giving them events, things that they can actually feel a better community in the dorm, really feel like, life on the 40 acres is actually something that's worthwhile having that community, but also their issues, whether it's, the water's been cold or some other issues. We talk to people who are higher up, talk to maintenance, different, whoever may be able to help on that issue, try to get them to step in and fix these issues. It's also a manner of advocating in the sense of giving resources and saying, oh, you're dealing with this issue. Well, here's something that UHD offers, or here's something that the university offers, maybe even something a student group or a student org has that might be better for them. So it's just kind of a matter of stuff like that. Primarily, as my job is giving resources and making sure everyone's heard in the dorm and has a safe environment in the dorm. So
how would you carry that experience over to student government?
Well, I think we should have a very strong community at UT. I think the Texas community is very strong. I think making a welcoming environment is extremely important. I think making an environment where everyone feels heard, where different perspectives are heard, where everyone's experience is taken into account, I think that's extremely important. And I do think to a large degree, student government, can't do everything. So it also has to say, well, we might not be able to fix so-and-so problem, but this is an advocacy organization, or this is a group who we really feel like has done a great job, and we could point students in those directions. And, I think my job does actually apply to student government quite a lot. And when it either comes to finding those resources or advocating or trying to make just a welcoming environment for everybody.
So kind of bridging the divide and connecting students with various resources.
Sure, yeah.
Awesome. So I believe you guys have no student government experience, is that correct?
No.
So how would you work within student government, given that you have not before?
Well, there's the different agencies that we can discuss where, they have had plenty of time, discussing the issues, and they have their own projects that they have set in place and want to continue doing. But at the same time, with the budget we have, we don't really know what those projects are and how much funds they're given. So
I can speak a little more on that. Obviously we do have a budget, and I did ask for specifics for people in student government. I was like, so here's a budget, where does this money go? And then I was like, I wasn't really ever given specifics. So that is something we do want to do, is look into the budget, see exactly where things are spent. But I do want to actually expand more upon, say, we do want to surround ourselves with people who are more familiar. Like when it comes to the agencies, obviously I wouldn't want to just appoint all our friends or something like that. I want people who maybe have worked in these agencies for a very long time to oversee them, because they're more, they're better experts when it comes to those agencies. They have worked within them before. They're more familiar with them. Even when it comes to, the people who we'll be surrounding ourselves with directly, there are a lot of people in student government who are more knowledgeable than us. I do think our legislative experience and other stuff like that does make us familiar with kind of how governmental institutions works. I do think, we've developed very strong communication skills. We both worked in the Capitol in different offices when it comes to like talking to a lobbyist and talking to a rep and talking to a constituent. There are all these competing interests. There are all these things that people want to do. And, whether that's, the assembly, the members of the assembly, the agencies, people on the executive board, whoever it may be, we will be trying to, put forth a strategy, put forth plans, projects, things that people want to actually implement into student government. And we want to make sure that that communication is actually bridged. And like I said, a lot of it does come down to we will be surrounding ourselves and relying on people who do have that institutional knowledge, who've been in student government. Because, two people can't do everything. We can't run student government by ourselves. So we want to make sure we have the right people around us and we can rely on, proper information and proper things like that.
Awesome. So am I correct in assuming that the budget is your largest priority as an alliance? Or
yes, I'd say so. Yeah, it's our platform point one.
Okay, so you've spoken about it a little bit, but what exactly is your goal with the budget?
So here's our first goal. I think is the easiest one, and quite a few people in student government have said, you know what, that's a really good idea, is when it comes to financial transparency. I had to ask around in student government looking for a budget because, for running for positions, we ought to know how the money is spent, where it goes, things like that, because at the end of the day, a lot of the funding ends up being the life of an organization. So we ended up having to ask quite a few people before I was able to get numbers and get how much money is actually spent. And we feel like the budget should be more available, whether that is what we think should be, which should be on the student government website. There's different tabs for different things, and we think having a budget tab would make a lot of sense. We think that having previous budgets would make a lot of sense. Having the expenditures that student government makes would make sense as well, because, ultimately student government money we feel does belong to the students. We feel like it is student money, so they should know exactly where that goes.
And, text legislator, they have their website, and they have to publish a 1,000-page paper that just says where every little nook and cranny is going. And, every project has to be approved some way or another, so we don't really see where there'd be an issue of just being oh, yeah, here's the document that we approved. And we can't just add that to a website.
So you mentioned that was your first goal. Are there other budget-related goals as well?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, is that, we want to take away our stipend and lower it, because we want to make sure that we can have a student merit-based scholarship for people. So those who just don't have that financial stability, and they just have those high grades, and we want them to excel, and we feel like it would be wrong of us to just take money that should be theirs.
So those are your main goals with the budget then: transparency and then putting the money back
to the hands of students.
So how would that work exactly with the scholarships?
Well, it'd just be a resume application where they'll have questions, just ask specifics about things that they want, and their goals.
Sorry, it said the recording canceled. Okay, sorry. Do you mind just repeating your question?
Perfect. No.
Yeah. So what were the specifics with the scholarship?
I can actually answer, I think.
Okay.
So when it comes to the way that a lot of this money is allocated, it is a governmental institution, so it is actually quite complicated. There are required spendings and there's non-required spendings, discretionary versus the mandatory. So when it comes to, I think, the very specifics of how an application process for scholarships would work, we will have to work closely with the dean of students to see what they think is the best way. We obviously have we have something in mind for what we want to do with this money, and we do want to put this towards scholarships. But ultimately, this budget has to be approved and written by so many different people: the financial director, the assembly, us, dean of students. That this is probably our biggest project, where we want to create scholarships in student government for those students who don't really have the opportunity. You can continue with what you're saying.
Well, yeah, we just want to make sure that, everyone can have a voice and just put their story and present it to us, and based on the way that we create our scholarship and how you can apply, that you can just show that you want to be here and that you want to excel and you want to show that you're here to learn and you're here to improve the world.
Awesome, thank you. So shifting gears a little bit, SB 17 has of course affected a lot of campus. A lot of people are paying attention to that right now. So in the aftermath of this bill, what would you do, if anything, as president and vice president?
Well, one of the biggest things that we can really say is we want to make sure that every organization here on campus can continue to do what they want, because every single person in each organization has their own voice. They have their own opinions, their own beliefs, and it'd be like wrong for us to like squash it. But as student government, and since we're a government entity, it's our role to follow the law.
Yeah, I can just expand upon that a little more. Ultimately, student government, it receives public funding, so it is affected by this new law. Student government has to follow and comply with SB 17 like any other organization that's affected by this law. And I do think ultimately it would be our responsibility to, maybe enforce is not the right word, but we do need to make sure that student government is in compliance with law, because something I've spoken about is ultimately there's only so much action that will come against students when it comes to an issue like this. We believe that, I will say I know that the staff members especially, they're the ones who are actually, they are the ones whose jobs are at stake when it comes to complying with the law. So we do believe that ultimately we will have to comply with the law. And if anyone says, we want to go around the law and still do these initiatives, I will say, the administration will push back on that. And I don't think it is wise to just kind of spend the entirety of our term just fighting with the administration when it comes to things. So we do have to comply with the law, and that, we are a public entity, we are a public school, so that's just kind of how it has to be.
Is there any specific action you would take more broadly outside of student government with like student organizations or campus entities and things like that?
Well, we just want to make sure that they can continue to do what they want, where we wouldn't touch them because they're their own entities. But I think our main focus is just student government, though, and just making sure that we don't hurt any of the staff here at UT, and because like Andy was saying, is that they're scared that they might lose their job because just actions going on by students, and we don't want to squash the views of anyone, and make sure that everyone has a voice and they can speak their mind, but we also want to protect the staff here.
Okay, so just to clarify, you would focus more like internally with student government and not like bridging with other organizations on campus or anything like that?
Well, I can definitely say other organizations are still, they've collaborated with student government in the past, and that's certainly something that, we're still open to, and we definitely think these different projects could possibly be good. It's definitely more of a case-by-case thing, as always. And yeah, student governments or student organizations, they of course are free to really advocate and do whatever they please. It's just a matter of internally when it comes to student government, because that's ultimately what we have the most say on. We will have to follow SB 17.
Yeah, of course. Okay, we did speak about this before, but I do want to give you the chance to add anything if you would like, with the war going on in the Middle East and how that has kind of affected students on campus. Is there any other action you would take?
Well, I think a lot of it to a degree is, what is student government's place in this conversation? Student government is supposed to be the largest advocacy organization for students, and something that we do need to also take into account is there are a lot of students who feel like one side or the other is correct in this conflict. We don't believe it's student government's job to really take sides, so to speak. We don't believe that student government should really be like I said, taking sides, really favoring one perspective over the other. And we're not saying that student government has done that or anything like that. We're just saying that we believe it is student government's job to hear all voices on this issue, whether it is someone of Jewish faith or Muslim faith. We believe student government needs to advocate for everybody on campus. So we did talk about the task force a little bit, but I do think we should be advocating for all perspectives on campus, all experiences.
Anything you would like to add, or?
No, Andy put it perfectly, because as student government, we don't want to like squash anyone's voice and make them feel like they don't have a voice, because I can't remember what the full abbreviation is, but there's an organization called FIRE, and I want to say the stats were that 51% of students feel like they have been self-censored, but then 58% of students here are like in fear of that they'll ruin their reputation for what they have to say, where we're like rated one of the lowest schools for like freedom of speech, where we want to make sure that, you know, people aren't scared to have an opinion.
Yeah. And where did you say those statistics had come from?
FIRE.
Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression.
Okay.
They rank colleges on freedom of expression and different things like that. Currently, UT is in the bottom 30 of the over 300 schools ranked, and we don't think that is acceptable.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, one more broad question.
Mm-hmm.
What unique perspective can you guys bring to student government? We can start with you, Austin, and then come over.
Well, like I said, I have legislative experience, but I've had a lot of good time, you know, talking to the organizations here and getting, you know, having close relations and having friends with a bunch of other organizations and seeing what they care about. Where I know members of University Democrats, you know, they always try to make sure people can vote because they love the students here and they want to make sure everyone has a voice in, like, actual state and, you know, federal government. But then every smaller organizations just have a voice on specific issues that, you know, and political issues that they have a heart for, and they want to make sure that their voice is heard and people can join them and, you know, express the way they want. And I think I kind of know where people have their thoughts and hearts are at, where I want to make sure that we can listen to them all and make sure that student government can, you know, do its best to, you know, follow everyone.
I mean, I certainly agree. Like, I kind of like the theme of what we've been saying is student government. It should be there to advocate for all students, all perspectives, all experiences. And we do think that the university, you know, we said it is currently rated poor for free speech. So we do think that the university has missed the mark a little bit. So when it comes to, you know, what makes us, I think, the best executive alliance and what perspectives we bring, we talked a little bit about our experience, our legislative experience, but, you know, I do think having a bit of an outsider's perspective on student government is valuable because, like we said before, we don't really know where, like, a lot of the money goes. We asked and we couldn't find specifics. I think a lot of students have trouble understanding what student government is, how it actually functions, and things like that. I've talked to numerous students who said, we have a student government. Wow, I didn't know that. And, you know, to a large degree, students are going to be more involved in their studies, and there's going to be a large percentage of students who just don't care what a student government has to say. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, we have studies, we have internships, we have jobs, so it makes sense that that's kind of how it is. But I feel like student government to a lot of students has been somewhat inaccessible. And I do think bringing that perspective of, hey, you know, we feel like student government, it, you know, could be more transparent. We could put the budget in better ways. I do think those are fresh perspectives that, you know, student government could benefit from.
Yeah, and if you could summarize your campaign in one sentence, one phrase, what would that be?
Well, our campaign is focused on the students, where we want to create transparency and make sure everyone can put an opinion in student government.
Perfect. Is there anything else you would like to add about your campaign or about student government?
I mean, no, nothing I can really put on to the top.
I think we basically hit on everything. Like, we're just very dedicated to our campaign. If we do become president and vice president, you know, that will be what we're focused on. We do want to make UT a better place for everybody, you know, regardless of, you know, which ideology they subscribe to or any other characteristic like that. We want to make sure that we're a very open campus, a very welcoming campus for everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, well, thank you.